And welcome once again to night two of our Clear Admit Real Humans live webinar series. This is an event where we get to meet actual students, actual alumni who are either currently attending MBA programs or who have gone through an MBA program at one of the top schools that we cover on Clear Admit. Clear Admit is a applicant resource website as well as applicant community for business schools to most of the top programs here in the US and around the globe. If you have not been to our site yet, plenty of awesome resources for those of you who are hoping to be able to go to business school. We mentioned earlier, and one of our panelists is representing Wharton's program, and there's interview invites going out from many schools, but I know a lot of you may have been waiting for news that came out this morning from Wharton. So if you are a Wharton applicant for round one and got some good news, congratulations. And if you did not, you only need 1 minute to get in. So plenty of time to still hear from your other schools and a whole nother round and another round behind that in the next couple of months. So with that, we'll get started with our panel. Panelists, thanks for all of you for joining us as well. What I'll do to get started is kind of go one by one and just introduce you by name and then just kind of jump on, let us know what school that you're representing, what year you will either graduate or did graduate, and then what your pre-MBA career was. So either like the company or the industry or something like that. So we can get to know each of you. I'll just go left to right across my screen. So first up that I see will be Liz.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Mike, and to Clear Admit in general for having us tonight. Excited to be talking to all the prospective students. Liz Gardner, I attend Georgetown's McDonough School of Business. I'm actually a part-time student, so I work full-time. I attend course in the evening, in person on campus, but can answer questions on the full-time program too, and actually was seriously considering full-time when I was making my decision. I will graduate in spring of 27. So I am in the second year of the 3-year program.
Very cool stuff. Thank you for that. And next up we'll have Sophia.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's great to be here. So I actually just started my program. So I'm a full-time student and I will be graduating in May 2027. Um, and then I'm at Kenan-Flagler Business School in North Carolina. Before joining UNC Kenan-Flagler, I was a research assistant at the Federal Reserve Board in DC for a few years. Loved it, really enjoyed the work, but wanted to pivot. And so that's why I'm here.
Awesome, and a very good spot to do a pivot. So thank you for being here tonight. Dempsey, I see you next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dempsey Simonis. I went to the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. I graduated in 2023. And prior to Wharton, I worked at Columbia University, this Fu Foundation School of Engineering and Applied Science as a fundraiser.
Very awesome. Tough work doing fundraising at a university. So very cool stuff there. Next up, we'll have Chris.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks everybody for being here. My name is Chris. I'm a second year full-time student at UC Berkeley Haas. Prior to business school, I was in the Army. I was a captain doing missile defense work.
Very awesome. Thank you for your service. And finally, and last but not least, but also you were here first. So I feel weird that we're getting back to you in the back end here, but Paroma, let's meet you as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paroma. I went to the Georgia Tech Scheller College of Business, graduated May 2023. I just looked at the date and freaked out that that was 2 years ago. My pre-MBA career was in design and construction. I worked both for a general contractor and then I worked for a sustainable design consultant. And now I work not in consulting and design and construction at all. So happy to talk about a pivot too.
There you go. Awesome stuff. So thank you all for the introductions. And again, for those who have not been to one of these events in the past, it's all about learning from folks who are in the programs you all would hope to attend, but also have gone through the process that you're undertaking right now, right? So we want to make sure that we can kind of myth bust a little bit, dive a little deeper into everyone's backgrounds, and also just kind of show you all that, we can all start in different places and end in different places, but we can all go through a little bit of a shared experience in the middle here with an MBA application process. So, so with that, with our first question of the night, and we can go maybe backwards reverse since we had some panelists that had to wait a little bit to introduce themselves. I'll let you kind of kick off the first question of shortlisting programs, right? So you you think I'm ready for an MBA, you go out there, and how did you decide to look into the programs that you were looking at? What were kind of the things you were looking for in a program? And if there's any kind of like tips on what people can do in that portion of the process, kind of that early on stage of just really seeking information and trying to figure out what's going to be the best fit for them. So, Paroma, if you want to kick that off, if you're comfortable with doing that, I'd love to have you kick that one off.
Absolutely. So my when I first started looking, everything felt really overwhelming, right? There's like 5,000 lists that rank schools. So I really had to sit quietly with myself and say, if I'm going to devote 2 years to this, because I did do the full-time program and really leave a career that I loved, but I knew I needed to grow a little bit. What was it that was important? And for me, it was I'm going to spend a lot of time with people. So I need the people around me to be caring and fun and supportive. And I need the career that I'm going to have after to be something worth leaving this career for 2 years. So the two things I was looking for was classroom experience and like class culture and career coaching and guidance. And the biggest way for me to understand about culture was to actually attend a lecture. So, literally before the pandemic, I think the week before the pandemic was declared, I went to a supply chain modeling class at Georgia Tech with one of their student ambassadors, and everybody immediately made fun of me and included me. So, it was like a fun, bullying, hazing. No, I'm just kidding. It was just a fun, welcoming environment. And it was a subject I was like, oh, wow, I really deeply care about this and this is a fun place to learn. And then I met the Career Network, and it was just their coaches are incredible. So that was sorry, I've been rambling, but those were the two major things I was looking for in schools, and narrowed it down based on visiting and just seeing what the people actually were like there.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, yeah, the visit can be super important, and sometimes it's tough to visit just based off of like where you're located, where the school's located. Things like, a pandemic sometimes could get in the way of that stuff. But yeah, if you do have the opportunity, it could be a really good way to meet with students, faculty, see the campus, all of the above. So that's awesome stuff. Chris, how about for you?
Yeah, much like she mentioned, I think culture was probably the biggest thing I was looking into when deciding which programs to focus in on. I didn't visit really any schools that I applied to. Instead, I had to do a lot of my outreach online, primarily through the clubs and through just linking up with students, however I could find them, whether it be LinkedIn, cold emails of the sort. And I really found that the schools that I resonated with the most were the ones that sort of got back to me quickly, but got back to me with a level of enthusiasm that made me feel like the school is very down to earth, that they're very inclusive, not just in name only, but in actions. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I ended up where I am at Berkeley.
Were one of those clubs involved with like veterans and either veterans at the school or yeah.
Yeah, it across affinity, across even small interests. Like I would reach out to like the beer club, these ones that are like kind of one-off sort of social clubs that aren't going to impact my career, but I know that are going to impact the 2 years that I spend here about who I hang out with. So those like even small interests I think are worthwhile in seeing how you can connect to people in different ways.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, you're a student again, back on a campus again, and you need to experience that again. So, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now I'm going to lose track of who is next because I'm out of order here. Dempsey, I believe you may be next in my reverse order here. So,
Okay, awesome. So I'm like, what was the question again? But I remember. So I chose, how did I choose my school ranking? So first it was, I feel like a consultant here, but your reach school, the schools you think you could get into, and the schools you could definitely get into. And I had been doing a lot of networking, so I was able to meet a lot of admissions consultants from different events. So they seemed very amenable to my profile, basically. And I was able to visit schools all over, especially being at Columbia. I was able to get this bird's eye view into what was going on, talk to some of the students, previous students. They were my donors. So that was really good. And then also with my background, I just wanted to choose a school that would give me the credibility that I needed to pivot into a new career and the business acumen. Also, the global network is really important afterward. For me, it was really important afterward too. So I wanted to think about that.
yeah, that's awesome. And not too far away. I mean, it's hour and a half, I guess, right? Down the down 95 from New York down to Philly. So,
Yeah, and it was tough because I was dead set on Columbia and I didn't really know about Wharton and my mom was just like go somewhere new, try something new. I took classes at Columbia too, so it was just something different.
Makes sense. That's great. All right, awesome. So next up, we will now hear from Sophia.
Awesome. Yeah, so I would say my application process was pretty similar. So I had like my reach schools and then like ones I thought I could probably get into, and then ones that I think were more of like a safety or that I felt like pretty confident in. And I applied like pretty broadly, and I just kind of wanted to see what would stick, to be perfectly honest. But when I like as I was still forming that list, I definitely prioritize programs that I knew would help me with a pivot into the healthcare industry, because that's something that I'm very set on. And so for me, that looked at like checking like what classes were being offered, like do they have like a healthcare concentration, what clubs are being offered, that sort of thing, just to make sure that I had that support to do that career pivot.
Awesome. And I know it's a little earlier in your journey here at MBA program, but have you found that so far? Like, are you finding all the things you're looking for at UNC?
Yeah, I have for sure. I've been very happy with it. We I feel like have a very strong kind of healthcare concentration. I've absolutely been loving working with the healthcare club at UNC. The second years are all incredibly talented and helpful, and they like lead our industry clubs. So it's been a really great experience.
And Sophia, it's funny in our prep, you were the one who asked the question, what happens if I get a direct question? And you are the first one who received a direct question. So as I mentioned I would do, I'm going to make sure we see it. What are you looking to do in the healthcare industry?
A good question. So I think one thing that I really wanted to get out of the MBA experience was frankly to learn more about the healthcare industry. So I feel like I'm kind of familiar with like the provider and like healthcare system space, obviously just from like the patient side, but I knew that there were a lot of complex verticals in the healthcare industry. Like you have payer and you have pharmaceutical, and it's all kind of complicated into how those interact with each other. So I wanted to learn more about the landscape in healthcare. And I think function wise, I would be really interested in doing like more of a strategy role. And I would love to work with providers at some point in my career. I think that'd be very rewarding.
Awesome. And I love that that happened for you because we just talked about this. This is awesome. Okay, so Liz, so same question, but with that different spin of not only how did you shortlist programs, but you then made the decision between looking at full-time and part-time options. So what made you lean and end up selecting a part-time over a full-time? If you can add kind of both of those questions into one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does come together really nicely. From the intros, I realized I didn't share. I work in healthcare consulting. I do a little bit of sort of the underwriting for different insurance groups and particularly negotiate on behalf of large employers in the US on what their healthcare costs look like. And so with part of that, took a highly analytical look at how I wanted to go to business school, sort of rank ordered what was going to be the most important variables to me because there's so much out there between location, cost, program type, general specific affinities, clubs, whatever it is, and really kind of highlighted what was the most important to me. Geography was up there. My family's in the DC area. I lived in DC and I loved my apartment and my life. I just really wanted to pursue this added degree. So I was able to go down the list. And that part versus full-time ranking was one of the variables that I turned it into because you're considering so many programs at once. That idea of, okay, I know I like the job that I do, I see success here, but I want to hit like the fast forward button if I can. And I thought the MBA was a great way to do my little fast forward button and get so many more skills in my tool belt that I wouldn't have without doing it while still keeping the role in the space that I already knew I liked.
I love that. And I'll go back to the beginning of your response on ranking it in your own way, right? Because not that I fight people online, but there's a lot of folks who they live on rankings and they say I have to pick the best ranked school. And my reply always is kind of what you just said is like, what is your ranking? Because I've read through the methodologies of US News and Financial Times and all the other rankings out there. And I don't think any of them have said like Mike will be a good fit for this particular program. So, Mike being me, obviously, right? So, I think it's key that you need to figure out what's good for you and then make your own rubric and then go forward from there. So I love that that's how you kind of like undertook that task of finding schools that would fit you. And I hope that everybody will do the same thing because yes, the rankings are nice and it does put schools in some type of an order, but like you should have your own order of what's important to you. And we've heard all different responses as to why each of you found the programs that you're in. So I love that. I love that there's some very different reasons for how you all landed where you're at. So next up, I would like to do maybe like a quick little just fun round, just kind of like a show of hand round of some of these different types of things that people tend to kind of go back and forth about in the application process. So first up, I'll ask, how many schools did you end up applying to? And I'll kind of just give some like number ranges, right? So did any of you apply to one and only one school? Liz, yeah. Well, and that was that because it was only the part-time at that point?
No, I was really decisive and I was like, these applications seem like a ton of work. And I knew
Yeah.
and that was all I was gonna do. Took the GRE, I did the whole thing, but I was like, if I don't get into this, then we'll, you know,
Then you
reevaluate.
reassess. That's
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay. 2 to 3 schools. Oh, I like this. We're getting higher now. 4 to 5 schools. Okay. Oh yeah, now we're getting okay, 6 or 7 schools. Oh, we still have more. 8 or 9 schools. 10 plus? Are we at 10 plus? Sophia, 10 plus. I love that. So how did you split them between the rounds?
I did round one for all of them, so it was crunch time in September.
Good for you. My gosh, that is yeah, okay, awesome. So there you go. So all different ranges, right? And again, everyone ending up in great schools. Okay, next one, and Liz, you already kind of you hinted at this. So how many other folks took the GRE as your test to go in? Okay. And how about GMAT? Okay. And then so that's it, right? Any executive assessment? Anybody tackle that one? No, and then no waivers either, because everyone raised their hand for a test. Okay, great. So more GRE than GMAT in this room, which is interesting. And we are seeing that to be more of a split kind of scenario. And another kind of myth buster, right, where best score wins. So take whatever test that resonates with you and you'll be good to go. Next piece though, with the application process, right? So yeah, scores and all that fun stuff. It's interview season in October here. It may be fun to talk through like interview process for the MBA program. So, what would be like a tip or a trick or a way that you've prepared that helped you when you were going through the interview process? Not to put you on the spot, but Sophia, I'm very curious what your answer to this would be, having to prepare for, you know, maybe potentially you may be interviewing at 10 schools. I don't know how many you actually interviewed at, but knowing you could have interviewed at as many as 10 schools, how did you prepare yourself for interview season?
Yeah, so one thing that I did was I had just like kind of compiled a list of all of like the stories and things from work that I felt I could talk about because I feel like the interview process is very behavioral in nature and like tell me about a time when. And so I just made sure that I had like a short list of like scenarios that I could kind of talk about in these that would talk about like time where I faced a challenge or like you had to work through a difficulty or like something you're really proud of. And I feel like that, like kind of getting those stories down was really helpful. And also just like doing practice behavioral interviews with friends that were willing to help me out with that.
Yeah, it's great when you have friends that can help you through the process. I like that. Does anybody else want to comment on their interview prep process? I'll look for hands here. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, in addition to doing a lot of what Sophia mentioned about having just like the behavioral questions that you could probably expect from any school, I sort of the schools that I got interview invites from would then either through scouring the online resources or again talking to the current students, like trying to find out what those like core principles or values that the school really likes to shine through, and then just kind of having those in sort of in the background of some of the answers as far as like, okay, well, I can expect that maybe they're going to maybe focus in on some of these values because if they're putting them out front themselves and that they got to care about them as they want to see those values in their students. And so as somebody who does student interviews for people who are applying to Berkeley, I know that's sort of like how we look at it as well, is like we have our defining leadership principles, and it's something that we expect students to sort of bring within the campus, embody them while they're here, and then carry with them once they graduate. And so that was something I thought was really successful for me when I went through the process.
Do you have like an insider tip now that you're on the other side, right? That you've seen the admissions side of this thing. Do you have like an insider tip for folks that they can think about in that process?
Yeah, and this kind of goes like across all the application materials. It's like, don't try and be too formulaic, right? Don't try and like fit yourself into this, what you think the admissions committee is hoping you look or sound like. At least at Berkeley, and I'm sure many of the schools are very similar. Like, we want you to be yourself, because we want the people who are here to be people and not just this like robot who's going into XYZ industry and that's all they care about. And so talk about yourself, be genuine. You know, if you're excited about something, no matter how niche it is, share that story, share that side of yourself, because I think that's going to lead to a much better discussion, which is then going to lead to a much better interview itself, because it'll lend itself to being more about you and who you are truly.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Great advice. Anyone else want to tackle the interview question? If not, yeah, Dempsey, go ahead.
Sure. Generally, if you're an anxious or nervous person, I would say you have a lot of interviews, you can practice on some of them if they're your safety or your kind of mid-level schools, because you're in the moment. You're actually at race day instead of it being a simulation. So those additional schools, like every engagement and opportunity to practice and articulate your story, like feel those words on your tongue, how they sound. So think about that too.
Yeah, and were you able to schedule your interviews in such a way where you can knock out some of those first? Like, is that something did you strategically do that to practice?
Everything's strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Anyone else on this one? No, no, no. Okay, cool. So we can jump into the next topic here, which is basically like within your program, right? And this is another fun one. We'll go through, every one of you can answer this. Is just like, what's like one thing about your school, about your classmates, just about the experience that you're having that you may not have expected? Like, you did all your research, right? And you obviously picked the school that you thought you were gonna have the best fit at, but like, where did it go from there? Like, did it become even better than that? Is it better than your expectations? Like, and tell us like a little story of maybe like how you've been doing or how you did when you first entered the program. So, yeah, Paroma, go ahead. You jumped up quick. So you got a good story. I
I
have a good
do have a
feeling.
good story because I came in hot to my program with like a I will never be a consultant, and everyone made fun of me. And my internship was in industry. I was in supply chain at Gallo. Loved it, but I really realized the things I loved about it were internal consulting. So I came back, sat in front of my career advisor in August of my second year, which is far too late to do this, and said, I want to be a consultant. Wouldn't you know, 2 weeks later, I get invited to interview for McKinsey, round one. I've done two cases my entire life, and I'm panicking. For the next 2 weeks, my classmates, friends, and people that, you know through class, but maybe you don't spend a ton of time with, still good humans, still you see them all the time, woke up with me and cased me for 12 hours a day, gave me advice, their tips, whatever they could do to help me. Some of them had their full-time offer, some of them were interviewing. It was so unexpected and so supportive for someone who had talked a big game and said, I will never be a consultant. To have a class rally like this behind you was exactly what I was looking for in business school. Um, and it continues. Like I was at McKinsey for 2 years. I'm at a new role now, and I got this role because of my mentor through, she was a second year when I was a first year. She officiated my wedding. Like there was a lot of deep love and connections that came through business school. And so that was just, yeah, sorry. Now I'm getting sentimental, but it was just such a great people experience and continues to be good people experience plus great career experience.
Ah, that's amazing. No, that's really great. And what's cool too, like the little nuance of that story of you're all in business school and you're all hoping to get that big job at the end, right? And you're competing with everybody, but you're competing with your classmates sometimes for those same roles. And that story there just shows that like you're not like I think that's the myth is like you're all competing against each other. But I think any one of your classmates is super happy for you if you get that role over them or next to them or whatever it is, because you're all working at it together and you all want to share that success. So that's really cool. You experienced that in your program. So and it continued afterwards. I mean, that's really cool. Classmates that became family, right? Really cool stuff. Anybody want to go next? Yeah, Liz.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in here. I think I had like my year one like big surprise, and that was just the level of experience and opportunity that opens back up to you when you re-engage in school. I think it's probably safe to say across the board, business schools do a great job of bringing really high quality programming to you, speakers that you would never think that you were in the same room as, or private equity, owners share their emails in class and say, hey, reach out to me, like let me know what's on your mind, and you can set up a coffee chat, etc. So if you're a curious person and all of a sudden all these things just flood at you and it's yours to grab onto, I guess I expected it, but the volume is what amazed me the most. And then my year two surprise has been just kind of tracking how much my confidence has increased since starting the program. I don't think I was expecting to sort of see these different avenues arrive and then have that build on of like, oh wait, I can do this if I want to. Like I have a plan for how to execute it. And it's really a little bit more eye-opening. A lot of that comes from making great relationships with people in your classes that then support you in whatever that pursuit is. So two-pronged answer, and both have been phenomenal. I'm excited for my year three surprise. But yeah,
I was gonna say that's only two of we said 27, right? So you have
yeah,
another two more probably surprises on the way.
exactly.
There you go. I love that. Very cool stuff there. Who wants to go? What do we got? Third here, I guess. Sophia, go ahead, and then Chris will be next.
Um, so one thing that I kind of want to talk about is actually from when I was a prospective student and I was interviewing at UNC. So I had heard good things about the culture at UNC. I mean, similar to I feel like a lot of the programs that I was interviewing with. But one thing that I feel like made UNC really stand out was I was there for an interview day, and so they do programming when you're interviewing. And so I was sitting in on like a class, and they have someone like take you around to the class, and you sit with them. And after like the class had wrapped up, I was just chatting with some of like the current students, and there was an MD MBA student who heard that I was interested in healthcare, and she was not at all associated like with kind of like the team that helps to lead prospective students around. But she like asked if I wanted to like chat and grab coffee, and she drove us to like a coffee shop and we chatted. And I wasn't even a student yet. So I thought that really showed just how like welcoming like the community was, for people that were even just like exploring. And I feel like I've continued to see like that welcoming nature. So it's been really great.
These are all great stories. This is awesome stuff. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of have like a similar, or I guess similar outcome as Paroma, but like the different side of the coin was like I thought I wrote all my essays about consulting, like leading into the summer. I did all my workshops, the MBB pre-summer. I don't know if they're called anymore. Got to school and then like within 2 weeks was like, yeah, this is not for me at all. This is after doing like my first sit down with a career coach in the career management office. Having gone to a couple events even for some of these companies, gotten into some of the clubs, and then walked into the career management group's office and was like, hey, I am completely changing directions. And then it was like without even a heartbeat, they're like, okay, cool, what do you want to do? There was no like grilling me or trying to keep me on track or trying to like convince me to continue down the path. They're just like, what do you want to do? And how can we support? And then sitting down with a new career coach who aligned better with my goals at the time, which was something in defense tech, which sort of relied on my background from the military, as well as testing a hypothesis of doing something in like sports and entertainment. Those career coaches like kind of laid out some of the paths. Okay, join these clubs. Here are some second years you need to talk to. Here are some alumni we can kind of connect you with. Here are some companies that we should be on the lookout for because they maybe are going to be hiring interns over the summer. So just that sort of like deep breath that I was able to like released once I kind of made that decision, and then the rallying support around me from not just the faculty and the program office, but the surrounding ecosystem was really awesome.
That's great. It's almost like you and Paroma switched places, right? Like you came in gung ho consulting, she was anti, and now you're the opposite. So,
Exactly.
no, that's great too. That the career, I mean, that's a like you kind of answered another kind of FAQ that we typically get, which is, how important is it that I actually follow up with what I write in my essay for my career goals? And we always joke on some of these sessions where like I don't think they have graduation and read off your essay and then say, "Oh, you didn't take the job you said, like you can't get your degree." Like, you can go back and change your mind. It's more just kind of connecting dots at that stage of the process. So that's great that you're being supported, all of you are being supported by your campus here, which is great. Dempsey, what's your story?
Sure. I think everyone talked about career and networking. So I'll go into like my third reason why I wanted to go to business school, knowledge. And just remember, you will all be in business school and you'll be part of a university. So I leveraged the law school. I took a bunch of classes there. I got to know different members of that law school. There were a lot of JD MBAs in my program as well. And then I took some classes at the medical school. So I definitely went outside the bounds of the business school, and that not only helps for career, lifelong friends who are lawyers, which is very helpful when you are in business. But yeah, so I think that was great. And then just remember not only the career office, but you can leverage your professors as well. So I was really outside of the box of what people typically do for networking and classes and how even I got my job, etc. Just really leveraging like a piece of grass, like turned it into a forest kind of. So it was a great time. Yeah. And I'm also in healthcare. I think like half the group is in healthcare. So yeah.
Very healthcare focused panel we have tonight.
Yeah.
And we need the lawyers when you're in business for the contracts, right? We're talking about like the contracts.
You need the lawyers so that you need to go to law school so you know when you need a lawyer in
There you
business.
go. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. We'll go with that. So we'll actually kind of relate this last topic into the question that came in via chat, which I think kind of fits within this little context right now of kind of like what did you enjoy about your school? The question coming in is looking back, and for some of you just like looking currently, I guess, right? How can you evaluate the long-term return on investment on your MBA? Both professionally and personally. So I think we've touched on a little bit of this, but if you wanted to expand upon some of those answers on kind of like, is it worth it, right? Like I think that we can surmise that question of like, do you feel like it's paying off for you, either professionally, personally, and how? So if anyone loves and has a good story again, you can jump in first, and if not, I'll be professor and call on folks. Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll take a kind of a stab at something we haven't really talked about is that's like the people who you bring with maybe during your business school experience. And so I'm married. I have also 3 dogs. And so coming from the military, a lot of long hours between just day-to-day stuff, whether it's trainings and then sometimes deployments being gone for 9 to 12 months. Coming to business school, the ROI I see for myself is being to be home with my best friend, who's my wife, at the end of every day, as well as just being able to like foster our family. So even outside of the classroom, academically, professionally, right, the business school is hopefully going to kind of take care of itself. But for me, it's like just an opportunity to help grow as like a family, and that's one of the biggest things I'm getting out of it.
I love that. We've asked this question before, and that's like I like that one. That's very heartwarming. Cool stuff. And I'm sure also, I mean, another thing, and maybe you want to touch on this because it could be a cool thing that you have at Haas, but a lot of programs do have programming that was mentioned earlier too, but programming and special clubs and organizations and groups for partners, spouses, family members. So has your wife gotten involved in any of that type of stuff as well, or is that available?
Yeah, there's a pretty robust partners club here. There's a club for people who have children, right? If you're bringing even small bears with you to Berkeley. But even beyond that, like all the clubs are very welcoming to partners. Primarily, except for maybe I would say like the professional clubs, but what partners are going to want to join the consulting club or the finance club? But like all of the affinity clubs, the interest clubs, there's partners that I know that I probably don't know there's the student as much as I know the partner. And so that's just a way that they sort of integrate across all the programming we have, including like international trips and stuff like that as well.
That's great. That's really cool. Awesome. So Paroma, I think I saw your hand up as well, right? Yeah, okay, go for it.
Yes. First of all, Chris, I also have 3 dogs and I work in pet healthcare. So there's just healthcare everywhere on
This is
this.
like you guys are like a Freaky Friday thing. Like you're too similar here.
But for ROI, I love that answer. My husband, now husband, boyfriend, then went to business school at the same time, so we are long distance. So that was sad, but I love that you get to be with your wife. ROI at Georgia Tech, I don't know if the other schools have this, but this was a major reason I picked Georgia Tech because in the offer letter, they offer a graduate research assistantship, and it can either be full or half. Full is 14 hours a week you work for the school. Most people have it within the Scheller College of Business. Mine was actually in the Georgia Tech Professional Education in their data analytics group. So what was really fun about that is it covered my tuition and I got to do analytics that then I talked about in my full-time interviews. And had like very like outside the classroom experience of like how does a business make decisions based on the data outcomes that I'm finding. Um, that was awesome. And, 2 years out of business school, not having any student loans is huge. That's financial freedom to be able to choose what kind of job you want next. Um, and you pick pet healthcare because why not? So,
That's great. No, that flexibility absolutely helps. Yeah, that's really great. You're able to get that. Does anybody else want to share their side? Yeah, Liz.
Yeah, happy to jump in here. Um, in terms of ROI from my experience, I think I was really caught up in that when I was starting, just because it's like a behemoth undertaking to say I'm going to go back to school in some capacity or another, and I'm going to have tuition to pay in some capacity or another. But I think, just having that faith and putting down money on yourself is probably the best decision you can make. I said it earlier, but like that build up in confidence is one form of ROI, as an intangible, similar to sort of what Chris was alluding to. And then similarly, I've switched jobs within my program, so I've already sort of seen that ability for career progression. I've been brought into a smaller firm for, internal consulting in order to grow their consulting practice. And it's like my dream job while I'm still in school. And the owner said, "We like you because of your degree." So it's, nice to have that immediate payback. It's the investment's not even fully made. But it's also been really nice because I've talked to people in my program and they're like, "Do you think this helped you?" And I was like, emphatically, yes. There's no world where one doesn't exist without the other.
Yeah, that is one like other major advantage of going part-time is that you're constantly bringing stuff back into the workplace. I mean, every night you could have class last night and bring it to work this morning, and that's awesome. So you're seeing that immediate kind of loop of feedback every single day. So that's really cool. And I know there's been a lot of folks too. We've seen it more where people are just given the environment with jobs and things that are going on out there. People are choosing more between full-time and part-time and kind of leaning between both and deciding what's the best for them. So I love that you're here and able to speak on the part-time process because I think there are folks considering both. So thank you. Sophia or Dempsey, either of you want to jump in on this one? And if not, we can. Yeah, Dempsey.
Sure, I'm happy to. So I was looking for, and I mentioned this before, career pivot, network, knowledge, and the career pivot definitely paid off, and that includes like financial gains as well. I know Paroma talked about paying off her student loans. I was able to do the same. Happy to talk about the figures offline, but that was a that was a really easy and exciting thing with the career pivot. The network's great. I travel internationally a lot, and so there's a Wharton community everywhere. And whether or not you're looking for an international job, you'll be able to find it in that way too. And especially with the relationships, I think there's a secret group of individuals who go to business school looking for a like-minded partner, and you'll be able to find that, or maybe have the confidence to look and talk to or have an intellectual conversation with a like-minded partner too. So that's a part of it as well, and that's great. And then the knowledge, of course, that you bring back to whichever career you end up in, or a new like sector of your life, whether you join like a different hobby or something. I learned how to sail in business school, and so that's something that I continue to do after, and that's a new group of people, etc. That's something you can talk about at work, yada yada. So there are so many different aspects in terms of ROI, whether it's talent, time, or treasure that you gain. So it's not always a monetary gain. Just remember that. Yeah.
Is that down Boathouse Row on the Schuylkill?
Oh yeah, that's correct. The Scrucle. Yes, the Scrucle. Yeah.
Clear Mid is based in Philadelphia, so I do know how to say that word. It is spelled crazy. Look it up online. It is a wild word, but Schuylkill River, yeah. Okay, so Sophia, do you want to share your story here as well?
Yeah, sure. So I am still like very early on, like in the process, but I do think that the ROI is just really going to be invaluable. For me, one thing that I'm really hoping to develop is like my leadership skill set. Like I think it's really important to like be a good mentor and know how to like motivate teams coming from like different skill sets and backgrounds. And I think just the MBA program in general is going to give like add a lot of tools to my toolkit. And I think that's going to be incredibly helpful down the road. And also just like with the classes I've been taking so far, I feel like I'm learning a lot. And like in speaking with my classmates who are coming from so many different industries, I'm being exposed to like so many perspectives and just like knowledge bases that I wouldn't have known otherwise. So I think like skill set wise and academically, the ROI is going to be great. And then also on a personal level, I think the relationship, like I can already tell that I've like met friends that I'm going to have for like a really long time. And yeah, so there are just like so many, I think, kind of aspects of it where the return is going to be really, really great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you'll probably, if we asked you this, if we do this again and you come back next year on the panel, I'm sure, you'll have a lot more to add on that because you'll have more that you've experienced. But speaking of experiences, I do want to ask you all, what is like the number one thing about your program? Like what's something that you experienced that you need everyone on this call to know about that would make them want to go to your program, right? So like this is your little pitch session of the overall session to let us know like what is that one thing that like we all need to know about your school, whether it's like a class that you took, faculty member that you've met, a cool experience or a trek or something like that that you want to share for the rest of us. So we can continue with the raising hands, or I can just go down the list again. I don't see a hand. I'll go over to maybe Liz first. I'm going to just look down my screen here. So sorry to put you on the spot.
No, no worries. Didn't raise my hand because I'm gonna not give one answer, and I apologize in advance for
It's
that.
fine. Well, we could break all the rules. You're good.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I went on a trek last year to Japan. It was so much fun. It's open to anyone in the business school, so part-time students, full-time students, online students. So really nice way to like meet a bunch of people I wouldn't have otherwise. And also, admittedly, I wanted to go to Japan, but was nervous to do it on my own. So I got to do it in a group of 20 MBAs. And traveling with MBAs is the best experience. Everyone is organized. They are team players. They will fight over the check in like a fun way. So if you guys go to business school, I hope you can experience that as well. The part two, though, that I was thinking about is that I love the cohort size. It's 50 people in each part-time program cohort. There's two cohorts, and then Georgetown admits about 250 each year. And I really liked the idea of knowing everyone and knowing everyone really well, so that I have the lawyer friends and the M&A friends and the, hey, I don't know what I'm talking about in this operations meeting right now. Can you please help me, friends? So already that's been helpful, but then it's also always great to hear people's perspectives when you're trying to approach a program in a new way. So yeah, two answers I've loved about Georgetown. I think overarching both though is that culture piece, our focus on sort of the whole person and authenticity, all that good stuff.
Sounds awesome. Good stuff there. Sophia, you're next here on the list, so I'm going to go with you.
Sounds great. I think for me, the people, I think is truly the selling point of UNC Kenan-Flagler. They, I think, one thing that the program does very well is like emphasizing how like collaborative and supportive the our cohorts are. Um, and I would just echo it. It's been a very like welcoming experience. Everyone is like very like great to work with. And yeah, it's just been great learning from everyone. And I also really like Liz was saying, I think the cohort size is fantastic. Ours is also like in the 200 to 250 range. So I feel like it's allowed me to get to know a lot of my peers pretty well. And yeah, so I think the people and the culture are really like the main selling point.
Works for me. Sounds good. Dempsey, how about for you?
Sure, I have a few too. I think travel is definitely one, and that's known with all the programs. For us, we had a hockey team. Well, we had 9 hockey teams, so we could all play against each other. But that was I think something unique about our club, about our school, and then we played against some other schools as well. So that was really fun to learn a new sport. Clearly, into learning new stuff there. And then my personal plug is that I was president of Pub, which was a community event that happened every Thursday. There were different themes: hockey pub, ski pub, fight night, etc. And we had a sort of LGBTQ a themed one where we had some drag queens come out, and our vice dean dressed up as a drag queen too. So that kind of community event. One thing that you'll see about Wharton is that it's student led. So everything that happens is because the students get support from the faculty members. So all the trips are planned by students. That pub night, there was just an article in the Wharton magazine about pub, so you can read it and learn more about the history there as well. And then the last thing I wanted to say was being a voracious reader. Reading all the books from our different faculty members and taking their class is really fun because um, sometimes when you read a book, you need a little bit more closure, and that closure is right in front of you in terms of going to the professor and asking, so what did you mean by, why did you place that comma there? You changed the meaning, you know? So those 3 things, yeah.
I like that. Yeah, it is pretty unique, right? Like you're reading all these books and texts and passages, and they're like sitting right there teaching you. So, yeah, really cool to be back at a university. Like I think I mentioned earlier, but it's like being on a campus where you have access to all these things is really so cool. Paroma, how about for you?
Okay, so I've been sitting here trying to think of like the most consulting answer, like 3 pillars of going to Georgia Tech. And if my answers aren't clear, it's the people, right? It's exactly what Sophia said. You're spending 2 years, three if you're doing part-time, with the same group of people. And I've told you my story about like, getting this job and having people support me. But I wanted to add on that our class was 80 people, 80. So you really did know everyone, but it was also a very safe place to fail. As people applying to MBAs, we don't want to fail. We want to plan and have spreadsheets so that there is no failure possible. But sometimes to grow, you have to try things that are scary. For me, that was coming with a strong enough perspective and to be able to defend it. So I'm thinking specifically, we had a class called Business Ethics where we were just talking about how do we define doing good in the world as a corporation and as people. And Georgia Tech, I lived in DC, I lived in a little bubble. Georgia Tech was an exposure for me of people who thought very differently about the world, but we had very similar core values. And to be able to speak up in class and argue with them and then change my mind or change theirs, that was an experience I don't think I really had even in undergrad because I was an engineering major and we did not do that. Um, so, uh, my plug for Georgia Tech is it's a small group of people that are so supportive that you can sound really dumb in class and someone will tell you that, but also help you sound smarter the next time you talk about it. Um, and that was an incredible experience to like form a perspective and learn what my perspective was in the world of business and all of this. It's very cool.
I love all these stories. There's that common thread, I think, tonight of it's like the people and the connections and the network within the classroom, really, and the cohort sizes too. This is all great stuff. Chris, how about for you?
Yeah, I'll touch on 2 things. One is what Dempsey said about uh, student-led. Berkeley is a very student-led, very student-empowered campus, to include the business school. And it's not just, even beyond everything she said about planning treks, right? Student leadership is very important, but just how much impact I'll say sway the students have, and just the direction that the school sort of goes in, even strategically. The dean meets with students very frequently, sometimes because the students want to push the school in a certain direction that may conflict even with how the overall program is looking to go, and not just conforming to what the future may hold. But beyond that, I would say Berkeley Haas is best because it's not an X school, right? It's not a consulting school. It's not a marketing school. It's not a finance school. Haas does a really good job of being diverse across all the industries. And at the end of the day, you're at the heart of it all. Being in the Bay Area, the heart of Silicon Valley, if you love tech, they're all right here. If you like finance, San Francisco is a great city. If you love consulting and you want to be in the West Coast, there's probably no better place to do it. And so across those two functions, I think that's what makes Berkeley special.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, plenty of opportunities in that area of the country there, and also the rest of the West Coast as well. Sorry, I'm like spitting my words here. Okay, so with a couple minutes left, trying to think of just something nice to end on, might be what all of you would offer as your number one tip for getting through the admissions process, right? So I'll preface with it's a stressful process, but you've all done it and you've been successful in that process. So what's kind of the one thing, if you could tell yourself that tip back when you were applying, what would that tip be today? And now it's strategic who goes first, because whoever goes last, you can't repeat answers. So maybe we'll get more people jumping to knock this one out here. Because whoever goes fifth, that's going to be a tough one. And nobody wants to do it. Okay. This is a bad question. Sophia, go ahead.
So I think one thing that I really appreciated during the admissions process, and I completely understand it's probably not possible for everyone to do it, but if it is possible, I found going and visiting campuses in person to be extremely illuminating. So I did some, but not all of my interviews in person just due to logistics. And one of the ones that I had done in person was Kenan-Flagler's, because I had never been to North Carolina before. And so I really wanted to get a feel for what, frankly, the state and campus and the community was like while I was there. And I thought that information was incredibly helpful to have. And if you can't do that, I would still try to engage virtually with programs through their online events, or reach out to students so that you can ask them and kind of chat with them about what they have felt about their experience. And doing events like this, I think is very helpful.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that last little tidbit because, I mean, these types of events, when you can connect with current students and maybe even after these types of events, absolutely. It's a good way to connect. Who wants to go second? Yes, Liz.
I'm happy to. I think my biggest piece of advice is know that the hard part's probably done. You finished your undergraduate degree, you've been working for a couple of years, you already are thinking about this pathway. Each decision is climbing you up that little mountain. And so you've already done so many things to tell yourself that you can. You're just taking one small step toward the next thing. So have faith in that and just trust the process, as cliche as that is.
Yeah, and even put it into smaller groups, right? You look at the process is daunting, but each little individual aspect isn't that bad, right? You can kind of check the boxes as you go down the list and knock it all out. So yeah, that's great advice, Liz. I like that one. Who else? Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, I think something I wish I kind of told myself is just every now and then just take the time for yourself to just do something else non-related to what your goals and your MBA is, right? Even after this, put it away, right? Close the Word document. Don't look at your email, right? Just even if you're in that phase of preparing your essays and stuff like that, it's good to step away from it every now and then, because when you come back after a couple of days, it'll provide you a fresh perspective than if you were just to continue to look at it every single day. And something I sort of found maybe towards the latter end of my application journey was to just kind of like what Liz just said, trust the process, relax, and don't obsess too much. I think that's a a net negative over the long term.
Yeah, I love that. Look, the one caveat though is you should refresh Livewire multiple times a day. That you should do. But step away from everything else, right? I think that's very fair advice. But no, that is great. I mean, and sometimes we see it too where people are just, I'm gonna refresh my email every day and make sure I get my invite. Like if you're gonna get it, you'll find out. Like they're not gonna forget about you. You paid the fee to apply, your application's in there, like you will get a response, just kind of like hang out. Like it's okay. Everything will come in due time. So yeah, that's very good advice. Tough to do at times because it is a nerve-wracking thing, but if you can handle that and step away, that is absolutely the best thing to do. All right, who's going fourth? Dempsey popped off mute so fast.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, Chris sort of started saying what I was gonna say, so I was like, maybe I should go.
See, you waited too long.
Yeah.
You almost waited too long.
Well, this is a little unconventional, but I would say maybe invest in a therapist or a life coach because they can sort of help you throughout the journey, especially with not getting so anxious. And this is not, you will not die if you don't get into an MBA program. It's really about what year you're going to graduate from your MBA program and which MBA program you're going to go to, because everyone's going to get into an MBA program. So don't worry about that. And kind of piggybacking off of what Chris said, and I'll be super frank. I took the GMAT 5 times and did the tutors and everything. And it was when I took a month off and got my hair done, got my nails done, went on vacation, and just someone told me literally before they were like, you're going to get into an MBA program. It just might not be this year. You won't graduate in 2023. You'll graduate in 2024 or 2025. Right. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Because before I thought if I don't get it, I'm going to die. So then they're like, you're not going to die. Like, and you haven't died after the 4 first times you took it. So I would say just also that therapist or that life coach, they're going to be so unbiased and they don't know you at all. So how you describe your aspirations and your goals, they can help you articulate that in a unique way that's not as cookie cutter as what you've been feeding on online and from everyone else going through the process. So yeah, just sit back and relax, and you're going to be graduating in 2 to 4 years. So yeah, just relax and have a great night and everything's gonna be fine.
I love that. And just to make sure everyone understands, it's a reapplicant strategy, right? So like you can apply and then you can reapply the following year. So yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of ways, or even just waiting to take the test again, you
Yeah.
can a couple different ways, right? But yeah, there's many ways you have multiple chances at this. So that sentiment 100% is true where yeah, it's not like all your eggs are in one basket and then even you said it, but your life doesn't end at that point. There you go. All right. So Paroma, you waited till
I
fifth.
know this was a mistake.
Okay, there we
Because
go.
y'all had great advice. But I think the core of it is like be a person. Like, yes, take care of yourself. But when you are at an interview or you're writing your personal statement and you're talking about yourself, you are not a business machine. You're not the economist. You're not an article reporting on I was going to curse just then, the stock market. You are a person with experiences and a perspective. Make sure that comes through. When you're sitting across from someone, engage with them. Because if it's a prospective student, I interviewed people for Georgia Tech who are coming in. What they asked me for when they were like in the admissions panel of should we let this person in or not was, do you want to replace yourself? Do you want to go to school with this person? Would you refer this person to a job once you've graduated? Those are the levels that you've already made it to the interview. They've done the numbers. They know you can succeed there. So just keep that in mind when you're prepping for your 10 schools like Sophia did, that at the core of it, they want to know who you are and if they can work with you.
Yeah, and in this world of AI, right? I mean, it's like it's easier and easier to not do that, right? To kind of like try to become this extra super robot person that you are not, right? And one thing we've done a couple of events directly with schools, and a lot of schools are switching their essay prompts to focus on the human aspect. It's more of the essay prompts that are kind of like, tell me about a personal story that you have, or tell me just 10 things that you like doing, right? So it's a lot more about the human element of it all, and it ends up in places like Promo just mentioned, like the airport test, they always say, right? Like, do you want to hang out at a layover with this person for 3 hours and can you sit next to them and have a conversation? Or is it like you want to pull your hair out, right? So it is just being who you are. You're the best person you can be. You're the person who's gotten you yourself this far already. And now it's just that next step in your journey in life. And you're the only person who can get yourself there. So lean on your community, lean on your closest folks, partners and friends and family and all that. But at the end of the day, it's like you're putting your own best foot forward. So do that, apply to these great schools, go to more events like this one, meet some awesome panelists like we had tonight. And hopefully you'll all do well in your process. At this point, we are at the end of our hour, and I want to be mindful of the time that our panelists have already given us this evening for all of them, or even, I guess, late afternoon for Chris. So thank you all for joining us. And for those who attended this session or are going to watch this on video later, thank you for taking the time out of your day to learn a little bit more about each of these programs and meet some panelists. One thing that we did offer last night, because it was asked in the chat, was a way to contact panelists. You are not required to do this, but if you want to share a link or an email address or a LinkedIn link or anything like that, feel free to do that in the chat so people can contact you. Again, you do not have to do this. You're not obligated. But if you want to continue the connections and networking and continue to sell your school, by all means, you are allowed to do that. And if not, then have a great rest of your night, your day, and we hope to see you at future ClearMid events on a screen near you soon. And check out clearmit.com for more admissions tips and advice and columns about business schools worldwide. And we'll see you all very, very soon. I will not close the session until everyone's had an opportunity to put into the chat there, but this will conclude our video recording, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks all.
Thank you.